The blue sun of Zephyria cast strange shadows across the crystal plaza where Captain Marcus Chen stood waiting. His black uniform felt heavy in the alien gravity, and sweat ran down his back despite the cool morning air. Around him, tall buildings made of living crystal hummed with soft music that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. Marcus looked at the creatures gathering around him. The Etherians were beautiful in a way that made his chest tight. They stood 7 feet tall, with skin that glowed like moonlight through water. Their large eyes reflected colors he had no names for. And their long fingers moved like dancers, even when they were just talking. When they spoke in their own language, patterns of light flowed across their skin like words written in starlight. "Captain Chen," said Ambassador the Wren, his translator making the alien words sound human. Marcus straightened his shoulders. This meeting could change everything. Earth needed allies. The galaxy was full of dangers, and humans were still newcomers to space. If they could make friends with the Etherians, both species might survive what was coming. A group of Etherians walked into the plaza. In the center moved a smaller figure, barely reaching Marcus's chest. Princess Lirelei looked like a child made of captured sunlight. Her skin shifted between gold and silver, and crown-like crystals grew from her forehead. She moved with careful steps, her large eyes fixed on Marcus with the serious look that children get when they know something important is happening. "Human Marcus," she said, her voice like wind chimes. "We are honored by your presence." "People," Marcus bowed. "Princess, the honor is mine. Earth hopes for friendship between our peoples." The ceremony began with songs that made the crystal buildings ring like bells. Etherian leaders spoke in light words that painted pictures in the air. Marcus felt peaceful for the first time in months. Maybe this would work. Maybe humans and Etherians could be friends. Then the sky exploded. Fire rained down from above as rebel aircraft screamed over the plaza. Chunks of crystal buildings crashed around them. Etherians ran in all directions, their skin flashing bright white with fear. Marcus grabbed his gun and looked for cover, but there was nowhere to hide. "Protect the princess," someone screamed. Through the smoke and dust, Marcus saw them. 12 figures in dark armor ran toward the plaza center. They carried weapons he had never seen before. Long tubes that glowed with sickly green light. As they ran, they raised their weapons and aimed at Princess Lirelei. The princess stood frozen in terror. Her skin had gone completely white, and she shook like a leaf. The crystal crown on her head cracked as her fear made it vibrate. Marcus's training took over. He saw the weapons charge up. He saw the green glow get brighter. He saw the attackers' fingers move toward their triggers. In that moment, time seemed to slow down. He knew what those weapons were for. The green glow meant poison. Not just any poison, something made to kill Etherians. Something that would eat through their glowing skin and shut down their light-based organs. Princess Lirelei would die in seconds if those weapons fired. Marcus ran. His boots slipped on the crystal ground. The distance seemed impossible. The weapons were almost ready to fire. He could hear his heart beating in his ears. Behind him, someone shouted his name, but he didn't look back. The first weapon fired just as Marcus threw himself between the princess and her attackers. The second arrow took him in the stomach. Fire spread through his body as alien poison entered his blood. His knees shook, but he spread his arms wider to cover more of the small princess behind him. The third arrow punched through his shoulder. The poison burned in his veins like acid. His vision began to fade, but he could still hear Princess Lirelei crying behind him. Marcus fell to his knees, then forward onto his hands. Blood ran from his mouth onto the crystal ground. The poison was working fast. He could feel his heart slowing down and his lungs filling with fluid. "Human." Princess Lirelei crawled toward him, her skin now flashing red and gold with panic and grief. "Human. Why? Why did you do this?" Marcus tried to speak, but only blood came out. He reached out with a shaking hand and touched her face. Her skin felt warm and alive under his fingers. Around them, Etherian guards finally arrived. They shot down the attackers with weapons that turned the rebels into light and scattered them like dust. But it was too late for Marcus. "Get the healers," someone yelled. "Get them now." Marcus felt strong arms lift him. Through fading eyes, he saw Etherian faces looking down at him. Their skin glowed with sadness. Deep blue colors that reminded him of Earth's oceans. They were trying to save him. But he could see the truth in their eyes. The poison was too strong. Their medicine was made for their own kind, not for humans. Princess Lirelei held his hand as they carried him to the medical center. Her tears fell on his face like warm rain. "Please don't die," she whispered. "Please. You saved me. Let me save you." Marcus wanted to tell her it was okay. He wanted to say that this was what humans did. They protected children, even alien children. They protected the future. But darkness was closing in around him. The last thing he saw was her face. Beautiful and terrible in its grief. The last thing he felt was her small hand squeezing his. Then, everything went black, and Captain Marcus Chen died on an alien world, far from home. Marcus opened his eyes and saw lights that shouldn't exist. Colors moved through the air like living things. Red spirals of warmth danced with blue streams of sadness. Golden threads of joy wove between silver clouds of fear. The lights had feelings, and somehow Marcus could understand what they meant. He tried to sit up and gasped. His body felt wrong, different, in ways he couldn't understand. His chest rose and fell, but breathing felt strange, like his lungs were made of something new. His heart beat steadily, but the rhythm was off, like a song played in a different key. "Easy, human Marcus. You are safe." A tall figure moved into his vision. Dr. Velthara looked like other Etherians, but older. Her skin had a pearl-like quality, and the crystal growths on her head formed complex patterns that spoke of great age and wisdom. Her eyes held depths that reminded Marcus of looking into deep water. "Where am I?" Marcus's voice came out rough and strange. "Our most advanced medical facility. You have been sleeping for 50 years. 50 years. Marcus stared at the ceiling, trying to process this. Everyone he knew on Earth was old or dead. The mission that brought him here was ancient history. The universe had moved on without him. "The princess?" Dr. Velthara's skin shifted to warm gold. "Queen Lirelei rules our people now. She has never stopped hoping you would wake up." Marcus looked at his hands. They looked human, but something was different. Under his skin, faint lines of blue light pulsed in time with his heartbeat. When he focused on them, they grew brighter. "What did you do to me?" "We saved you," Dr. Velthara said. "The poison should have killed you in minutes. Instead, we put you in stasis and worked for decades to find a way to heal you. Your human medicine was not enough. Our Etherian medicine was not enough. We had to create something new." End quote. 1. End quote. End quote. End quote. 1. End quote. She gestured to a wall that suddenly became transparent. Beyond it, Marcus saw machinery that looked like it was grown rather than built. Tubes of living crystal, pulsed with light. Organic computers made of what looked like crystallized thoughts processed data in patterns of color. "We rebuilt parts of your body with biomechanical organs. Your heart, lungs, liver, and nervous system are now hybrid human-Etherian technology. The poison cannot hurt you anymore. Disease cannot hurt you. Age cannot hurt you." Marcus flexed his fingers and watched the blue lines under his skin pulse brighter. "You are more than human, and more than Etherian. You are something new." Dr. Velthara helped him sit up. The movement sent waves of sensation through his body. He could feel the emotions of every Etherian in the building, their curiosity, their hope, their fear of the strange hybrid they had created. "The emotional feedback will be overwhelming at first," Dr. Velthara warned. You are now sensitive to our light speech. You can see our feelings as clearly as we see yours. I can feel what you feel? In a way, our emotions create patterns of biolight. Your enhanced nervous system can now read those patterns. With practice, you might even learn to speak in light as we do. Marcus slid his legs over the edge of the bed. His body felt strong, stronger than it had ever been. But the emotional noise from the Etherians around him was like trying to listen to 100 conversations at once. What happened while I was asleep? Dr. Velthara's skin shifted to deep blues and purples, the colors of old pain. War. The assassination attempt was just the beginning. Those who attacked the princess belonged to a faction that feared humans. They thought your species would corrupt our pure culture. Did they win? No. Your sacrifice changed everything. When our people saw a human die to protect an Etherian child, it sparked something new in our culture. We had always valued individual achievement above all else. But you showed us the power of selfless protection. She gestured. And the transparent wall showed images from the past 50 years. Marcus saw battles in space between sleek Etherian ships and dark vessels he didn't recognize. He saw humans and Etherians working together, building new technologies, creating art that mixed both cultures. The war lasted 15 years. Princess Lirelei led the faction that wanted peace with humans. She used your sacrifice as proof that humans were worthy allies. Eventually, she brought the rebels into her government. And now she's queen? For 20 years now. She has been the greatest leader our people have ever known. And she has been waiting for you to wake up. Formans. Dr. Velthara helped Marcus stand. His legs felt steady, but the emotional input from nearby Etherians made him dizzy. Joy, fear, curiosity, and wonder washed over him in waves. There is something else you must know, Dr. Velthara said. The Void Seekers have returned. Who are the Void Seekers? An ancient enemy. They feed on despair and division. They were gone for centuries, but our sensors have detected them at the edge of our galaxy. They are coming here. The port, the room filled with other Etherians now. Scientists, doctors, and officials came to see the awakened human. Their emotions created a storm of light around Marcus. He pressed his hands to his head, trying to block out the overwhelming sensations. Too much, he gasped. Dr. Velthara quickly gestured to the others, and they backed away. The emotional noise faded to a manageable level. Learning to control your new abilities will take time. You can perceive emotional patterns in ways neither pure humans nor pure Etherians can. You might be able to disrupt the despair they spread. Before Marcus could ask more questions, a deep, harmonic tone filled the air. It seemed to come from the crystal structure of the building itself. What's that? Dr. Velthara's skin brightened with excitement. The coronation horn. Queen Lirelei is about to begin the ceremony for the anniversary of her crown. She specifically requested that you be brought to her as soon as you awakened. Marcus looked down at himself. He wore simple medical clothing, and his body still felt strange and new. I don't think I'm ready for ceremonies. You are as ready as you need to be. The Queen has been waiting 50 years for this moment. She needs to see that her sacrifice, keeping you alive, was worth it. Dr. Velthara handed him clothes that looked like a mix of human and Etherian styles. As Marcus dressed, he caught glimpses of himself in reflective surfaces. He still looked human. But the blue lines under his skin, and the way his eyes now reflected light, gave him an otherworldly appearance. What if I can't handle the emotional feedback from a whole ceremony? Then you will learn to handle it, because Queen Lirelei needs you, and your people need you, and all our peoples together will need you when the Void Seekers arrive. The coronation horn sounded again, longer and deeper this time. Come, Dr. Velthara said. It is time to meet the Queen. The crystal throne chamber was the most beautiful thing Marcus had ever seen. Walls of living crystal rose hundreds of feet above him, singing in harmonies that made his bones vibrate. Light flowed through the transparent stone like water, creating patterns that shifted with the emotions of the thousands of beings gathered below. Humans in dress uniforms stood beside Etherians whose skin glowed like captured stars. Marcus walked slowly down the central aisle, supported by Dr. Velthara. Every step sent waves of sensation through his enhanced nervous system. The emotions of the crowd washed over him: curiosity, hope, fear, and something else he couldn't name. Awe, maybe, or worship. At the far end of the chamber sat a throne made from a single massive crystal. It pulsed with its own inner light, and the woman sitting on it made Marcus's breath catch in his throat. Queen Lirelei was magnificent. She had grown into the promise of beauty that Marcus had seen in the frightened child 50 years ago. Her skin glowed with steady golden light, and the crystal crown that had once been small growths on her forehead now formed an intricate pattern of living gems. Her eyes held depths that spoke of hard-won wisdom and carefully controlled power. When she saw Marcus, her entire being flashed with light so bright it hurt to look at. Colors he had no names for raced across her skin: joy, grief, gratitude, and pain all mixed together. The crystal throne itself began to sing in response to her emotions. She stood up from her throne and walked down the steps toward Marcus. The entire chamber fell silent, except for the harmonic humming of the crystal walls. "Marcus Chen," she said, and her voice was like music made of light. Marcus tried to bow, but his legs felt weak. The emotional impact of facing her was overwhelming. Through his enhanced senses, he could feel her pain from 50 years of waiting, her joy at seeing him alive, and something else, a debt so deep it had shaped her entire reign. "Your Majesty," he managed to say. Queen Lirelei stopped in front of him. For a moment, she looked exactly like the frightened child he had saved. Then she knelt. The entire chamber gasped. Humans and Etherians alike stared in shock, as their queen placed both hands flat on the crystal floor and bowed her head before Marcus. "No," Marcus said quickly. "Please don't." "Marcus Chen," Queen Lirelei said, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. "You gave your life for mine when I was a child. You showed my people what true sacrifice means. You changed us from a species that cared only for ourselves into one that protects others. Everything good that has happened in the last 50 years, the peace, the alliance with humanity, the unity of our people, all of it started with your choice." She looked up at him, tears of pure light streaming down her face. "I owe you a debt that cannot be repaid. I offer you anything within my power. Name it, and it is yours." Marcus felt sick. The weight of her gratitude, amplified by his new abilities, pressed down on him like a physical force. Around the chamber, thousands of beings watched and waited for his answer. "I don't want anything," he said. "Please get up." Queen Lirelei rose gracefully, but her eyes never left his face. "Then tell me what you do want. Knowledge? Understanding? Tell me what has happened to both our peoples while you slept." Marcus nodded gratefully. "Yes, that." The queen gestured, and the crystal walls became transparent. Beyond them, Marcus saw the great city of Luminous spread out in all directions. But it looked nothing like the place where he had nearly died. Massive spires of living crystal grew like trees from the ground. Human-style buildings made of metal and stone mixed with Etherian bioarchitecture. Ships from both species flew between the towers, and on the streets below, humans and Etherians walked together. "Your sacrifice sparked a revolution," Queen Lirelei said. "Not a violent one, but a change in how we think. Before that day, Etherians believed that individual achievement was the highest good. We pursued knowledge and beauty for ourselves, alone." She gestured again, and the walls showed images from the past decades. Marcus saw Etherian healers working with human doctors to save lives. He saw human engineers working with Etherian bioshapers to build impossible structures. He saw children of both species playing together in crystal gardens. You showed us that protecting others could be more important than protecting ourselves. That idea changed everything. It made us stronger, more united. When the rebels continued their war, we were ready for them. Dr. Velthara said the war lasted 15 years. Yes. The rebels didn't understand what you had done. They thought human influence would make us weak. But the opposite happened. Learning to care for others the way humans do made us more powerful than we had ever been. The images changed to show battles in space. Sleek, Etherian ships fought alongside blocky human vessels against dark ships that seemed to absorb light. The rebels allied themselves with the Void Seekers, Queen Lirelei continued. Ancient enemies of our people. Creatures that feed on despair and division. They promised our rebels power if they helped destroy the human alliance. What are the Void Seekers exactly? Energy beings that consume negative emotions. They turn people against each other, make them feel hopeless and angry, then feed on those feelings. For thousands of years, they kept our people weak by encouraging us to fight among ourselves. Marcus watched the space battles with growing understanding. But when humans arrived, everything changed. Yes, human concepts of unity and sacrifice created emotions they couldn't feed on. Hope, determination, love for others. These things poison them instead of nourishing them. Queen Lirelei's skin shifted to darker colors as she continued. The war ended when I led a combined human-Etherian fleet against the main Void Seeker force. We won, but many of them escaped. Our long-range sensors show they've been gathering strength at the edge of the galaxy. And now they're coming back. Yes, in greater numbers than before. And Marcus. She turned to face him directly. Your hybrid nature may be the key to defeating them permanently. Doctor. Velthara tells me you can now perceive emotional patterns the way we do. But you also retain human strategic thinking that we sometimes lack. Marcus looked out at the city again. Children played in the streets below. Human children with their quick movements and bright laughter. Etherian children with their flowing grace and shifting colors. They played together without fear or hatred. If the Void Seekers win, they will corrupt both our species. Turn us against each other. Feed on our hatred until there's nothing left but despair. Queen Lirelei's voice grew hard. I will not let that happen. My people will not let that happen. And I believe you will not let that happen. Before Marcus could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the crystal chamber. The harmonic tones that had been so beautiful before now shrieked with warning. Queen Lirelei's skin went white with shock, then blazed red with anger. Admiral Sarah Voss, the human commander Marcus had just noticed among the crowd, ran to the throne steps. Her face was grim. Your Majesty, she called out. Long-range sensors have detected massive spatial distortions on the edge of the system. The Void Seekers are here, 3 months ahead of our most optimistic projections. Queen Lirelei closed her eyes for a moment. And when she opened them, they blazed with determination. How long do we have? 6 days until they reach the outer planets. Maybe 8 days until they get here. The Queen turned back to Marcus. It seems the universe will not give us time to prepare properly. The debt I owe you must be paid in battle. Marcus felt his new heart beating faster. Through his enhanced senses, he could feel the fear and determination radiating from everyone in the chamber. But underneath it all, he sensed something else. Hope. These people believed he could help them win. What do you need me to do? Queen Lirelei smiled. And for a moment, she looked like the brave child he had saved. Help us fight for the children. Marcus. Human and Etherian. Help us protect their future the way you protected mine. Around them, The crystal chamber began to sing with the harmonized emotions of two species preparing for war. And at the center of it all, Marcus Chen stood ready to pay the price of protecting others once again. Marcus floated in the training chamber, learning to use a body that felt both familiar and alien. The biomechanical enhancements Dr. Velthara had given him were more complex than he had first understood. His bones were now reinforced with living crystal that could conduct biolight signals. His muscles had been enhanced with etherian biofibers that responded to emotional states. Most importantly, his nervous system could now interface directly with both human technology and etherian bioships. "Focus on the pattern," said Commander Jara, his etherian training partner. Her skin flickered with teaching colors as she demonstrated light speech for the 100th time. "Don't try to translate it into human words. Feel what it means." Marcus closed his eyes and let the biolight wash over him. Slowly, the chaotic patterns began to make sense. Attack formation delta. Flanking maneuver. Enemy contact, bearing 047. "I can understand it," Marcus said, opening his eyes. "But I can't speak it back." "Oh. That will come with time. Your hybrid nervous system is still adapting." On the other side of the training facility, Admiral Sarah Voss watched with barely concealed suspicion. She was a tall woman with gray hair and the kind of steady eyes that came from decades of military command. She had been polite to Marcus, but he could feel her doubt through his enhanced senses. "Admiral," Marcus said, walking over to her after the training session ended. "You have something to say to me." Voss studied him for a long moment. "Are you still human, Captain Chen?" The question hit harder than Marcus expected. "I don't know. That's what worries me. In 6 days, we're going to face an enemy that feeds on division and despair. I need to know that the man I'm trusting with hybrid fleet coordination is still on our side." Marcus looked down at his hands. The blue lines under his skin pulsed steadily, and he could feel the emotional currents of everyone nearby. Voss's suspicion felt like acid. Commander Jara's confidence felt like warm sunlight. A human technician working on nearby equipment radiated simple curiosity. "Admiral, I saved an alien child and died for it. I've been given a second life to protect both our species. If that's not human, then I don't know what human means." Voss's expression softened slightly. "Fair enough. But can you do what they're asking? Can you really coordinate both fleets through biolight communication? Let's find out." They moved to the command center, where holographic displays showed the approaching Void Seeker fleet. The enemy ships looked like holes in space. Dark voids, surrounded by crackling energy that hurt to look at. Marcus placed his hands on the bio-neural interface Dr. Velthara had installed. Immediately, his consciousness expanded. He could feel every human ship in the fleet through their communication networks. He could feel every Etherian ship through their biolight neural links. The sensation was overwhelming at first. Hundreds of minds, both human and Etherian, suddenly became accessible to him. But then his hybrid nervous system kicked in, organizing the chaos into something manageable. "Fleet status?" Marcus asked, his voice sounding strange even to himself. Information flowed directly into his mind. 47 human vessels, from massive battleships to fast attack craft. 63 Etherian bioships, their living hulls pulsing with defensive patterns. All ships were armed with the new hybrid weapons that combined human kinetic technology with Etherian bioenergy systems. Void Seeker probe ships detected, called a sensor operator. 3 vessels, closing fast on the outer patrol line. "Let me handle this," Marcus said. He reached out through the fleet network and found the patrol ships. 2 human destroyers and 1 Etherian light cruiser. Through the biolight links, he could feel the crew's emotions. Determination mixed with fear. Readiness mixed with uncertainty. The Void Seeker probes attacked without warning. Dark energy beams lashed out at the patrol ships. But these weren't meant to destroy. Marcus realized with growing horror that the beams were designed to corrupt, to turn the crews against each other. On the human destroyers, he felt sudden surges of anger and paranoia. Crew members started arguing with each other. Trust evaporated as dark thoughts flooded their minds. The Etherian crew fared worse. Their emotional sensitivity made them more vulnerable to the Void Seeker's psychic assault. Marcus acted on instinct. He pushed his consciousness through the fleet network and into the minds of the affected crews. His hybrid nature let him do something neither pure humans nor pure Etherians could manage. He became a bridge between their different mental patterns. To the humans, he projected Etherian concepts of unity and harmony. To the Etherians, he projected human stubbornness and determination. The combination created something new, a shared mental state that the Void Seekers couldn't corrupt. The dark influence faded. The crews stopped fighting each other and turned their weapons on the Void Seeker probes. Within minutes, all 3 enemy ships were destroyed. Admiral Voss stared at the tactical displays in amazement. "How did you do that?" Marcus slumped in his chair, exhausted. The effort had cost him more than he expected. His biomechanical organs ached, and the blue lines under his skin pulsed erratically. "I'm not sure," he admitted. "I just became a link between their minds, made them feel what the other species feels." "Can you do it again?" "Maybe, but it hurts, and I don't think I can handle much more without damaging something." Queen Lorelei entered the command center, her skin bright with excitement. "Marcus, the entire fleet felt what you did. For a few moments, every human crew member could sense Etherian emotions, and every Etherian could feel human thoughts. It was beautiful. It was necessary," Marcus said. "The Void Seekers are more dangerous than I thought. They don't just feed on despair. They create it by turning us against each other, which makes your ability even more valuable," Admiral Voss said. Her suspicion had been replaced by something like awe. If you can create unity instead of division, you might be the key to beating them. The main display suddenly filled with new contacts. Hundreds of them, emerging from the dark between stars. "Main Void Seeker fleet," the sensor operator announced. "Estimated time to engagement: 18 hours. Marcus studied the display with growing dread. There were too many enemy ships. Even with the combined human-Etherian fleet, they were badly outnumbered. "There's something else," Queen Lorelei said quietly. "Our intelligence suggests they have a leader now. Something calling itself the Despair Eternal. It's been planning this attack specifically to counter your abilities." "What do you mean?" "It was present during the original assassination attempt 50 years ago. It's been studying human behavior ever since, learning how to corrupt the concepts of sacrifice and protection that make humans so dangerous to its kind." Marcus felt a chill run through his hybrid nervous system. The entity had been preparing for him specifically. It knew his capabilities and had developed countermeasures. "We need to accelerate the training," Admiral Voss said. "Get our crews used to the hybrid communication system before the main battle." "Agreed," Queen Lorelei said. "But Marcus, you need to be careful. Don't push your enhancements too hard. We need you alive for the final confrontation." Marcus looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere in that darkness, an ancient evil was approaching. It had spent 50 years learning how to defeat him. Now he had less than a day to figure out how to defeat it. "I'll do what I can," he said. "But I think this is going to cost more than any of us are ready to pay." The bio-neural interface hummed with activity as the combined fleet prepared for the largest battle in the history of either species. And at the center of it all, Marcus Chen prepared to discover just how much of his humanity was left to sacrifice. The battle began at dawn. Marcus floated in the command center, connected to every ship in the combined fleet through bio-neural links that pulsed with shared consciousness. Around him, holographic displays showed the Void Seeker armada approaching like a wall of living darkness. Behind the enemy fleet, space itself seemed to bend and twist with malevolent energy. "Contact in 30 seconds, Admiral Voss announced from her command ship. Through the fleet network, Marcus could feel her calm determination mixed with carefully controlled fear. Queen Lirelei stood beside Marcus, her skin blazing with battle light as she coordinated the Etherian bioships. "Remember," she said, "we're not just fighting ships. We're fighting despair itself." The first wave of Void-Seeker vessels swept forward. They didn't look like ships so much as holes in reality, surrounded by crackling energy that hurt to perceive. As they approached, Marcus felt the psychic assault begin. Doubt crept into the minds of human crews. Fear flooded Etherian consciousness. The enemy's power worked exactly as Queen Lirelei had warned, by turning allies against each other. Like Tudits, Marcus reached out through the neural network and created bridges between human and Etherian minds. For a moment, the psychic assault faltered as both species shared strength with each other. The fleet held formation and returned fire with devastating effect. But then something worse arrived. A massive presence emerged from behind the enemy fleet. It wasn't a ship. It was pure consciousness, ancient and terrible beyond description. When it spoke, its voice echoed through every mind in the system. "Human Marcus Chen," the Despair Eternal said, "I have been waiting 50 years to meet you properly." The presence focused its attention on Marcus, and pain exploded through his hybrid nervous system. Every biomechanical organ screamed as dark energy tried to corrupt them. The blue lines under his skin flickered and began to fade. "Did you think your sacrifice meant something?" The entity continued. "I was there when you died for that child. I felt your pain, your fear, your precious human hope, and I learned how to turn it into despair." Around the fleet, something terrible began to happen. The Void Seekers started broadcasting corrupted versions of Marcus's memories. His moment of sacrifice was twisted into images of futility and meaningless death. The pain he had felt became a weapon that spread despair through both human and Etherian crews. "You see?" the Despair Eternal said. "Your greatest strength becomes my greatest weapon. Sacrifice becomes meaningless suffering. Protection becomes selfish pride. Love becomes possessive hatred. Love. Weak and selfish, people despairler." Ship after ship began to fall out of formation as their crews turned on each other. The carefully coordinated battle plan dissolved into chaos. Marcus watched in horror as human vessels fired on Etherian allies, and Etherian bioships lashed out at human defenders. "Stop this," Marcus gasped, trying to re-establish the neural bridges between species. "I cannot be stopped." The Despair Eternal replied, "I am the inevitable end of all hope. I am what comes after every heroic gesture fails. I am the truth that your precious sacrifice was worthless." Marcus felt his hybrid enhancements beginning to fail under the psychic assault. His biomechanical heart stuttered. His enhanced lungs struggled to process oxygen. The living crystal in his bones cracked and darkened. But then he remembered something Dr. Velthara had told him. "You are more than human, and more than Etherian. You are something new." Instead of fighting the Despair Eternal's assault, Marcus opened himself to it completely. He let the entity's corruption flow through his consciousness, feeling every drop of twisted despair and meaningless suffering. But his hybrid nature processed these emotions differently than either human or Etherian minds could. Where humans would have been overwhelmed by hopelessness, his Etherian biolight systems transformed the darkness into patterns of understanding. Where Etherians would have been consumed by emotional chaos, his human analytical mind found structure and meaning in the pain. "What are you doing?" the Despair Eternal demanded, its voice suddenly uncertain. Marcus began to understand. The entity wasn't creating despair. It was made of despair. It was composed of every moment of hopelessness, every failed sacrifice, every love that had turned to hatred. But despair was just hope that had been separated from purpose. "I'm giving you what you really want," Marcus said. He reached out through the fleet network, But instead of creating bridges between human and Etherian minds, he created something entirely new. He opened a channel directly from his hybrid consciousness to every ship in both fleets. Suddenly, every human crew member could feel what Etherians felt. The deep, flowing certainty that all consciousness was connected, that individual pain was part of a larger pattern of meaning. Every Etherian could feel what humans felt. The stubborn, burning conviction that individual choice mattered, that one person's sacrifice could change the universe. The combination created something that had never existed before. A truly unified consciousness that was neither human nor Etherian, but something greater than both. The psychic assault from the Void Seekers suddenly reversed. Instead of spreading despair, the enemy's dark energy was transformed by the unified fleet consciousness into something else entirely. Hope. Not the simple hope of individual survival, but the complex, nuanced hope that came from truly understanding both human determination and Etherian connection. No, the Despair Eternal screamed. This is impossible. The entity's form began to change. The darkness that surrounded it started to crack and break apart. Through the fissures, Marcus could see something else. Ancient Etherian consciousness that had been consumed by hopelessness eons ago. You're not evil, Marcus realized. You're just lost. He pushed his consciousness directly into contact with the Despair Eternal, sharing the unified awareness that filled the fleet. The entity experienced, for the first time in millennia, what it felt like to truly belong to something greater than individual suffering. The transformation was violent and terrible. The Despair Eternal's scream echoed across space as its essential nature changed. The darkness that had defined it for so long was burned away by the light of genuine hope. What remained was something new, no longer parasitic, no longer feeding on despair, but not yet anything recognizable. Around the fleet, the remaining Void Seeker ships began to change as well. Their dark energy was transformed by the hope light, radiating from the unified consciousness. One by one, they stopped attacking and began to drift. Their crews experiencing emotions they had forgotten how to feel. But the effort was killing Marcus. His biomechanical organs were burning out under the strain of maintaining the unified consciousness. Blood ran from his eyes as his enhanced nervous system overloaded. The blue lines under his skin blazed so brightly they could be seen through his clothes. "Marcus, stop!" Queen Lirelei cried. "You're dying." "It's okay," Marcus said, his voice weak but peaceful. "This is what humans do. We protect the future, even if we can't see it." Admiral Voss's voice came through the communication system. "Captain Chen, the enemy fleet has surrendered. You did it. You can stop now." "Not yet," Marcus whispered. "It's not finished yet." He reached out one final time, not just to the fleet, but to every consciousness in the system. Human, Etherian, and the transformed beings that had once been Void Seekers. For one perfect moment, they all shared the same awareness. That individual sacrifice could become collective strength. That different species could become something greater together. That hope and despair were both just different forms of the same energy. The biolight that Marcus generated in that moment created a permanent aurora above the planet Zephyria. It would shine for centuries, a reminder that some lights burned brightest when they were shared. Marcus collapsed, his enhanced body finally reaching its limits. But he was smiling as Dr. Velthara and Queen Lirelei rushed to help him. "Is it over?" he asked. "Yes," Queen Lirelei said, tears of light streaming down her face. "It's over. And you're going to live. Your biomechanical systems are damaged, but not beyond repair." Marcus looked up at the displays, showing the aftermath of the battle. Human and Etherian ships worked together to help the transformed Voidseeker vessels. On the communication channels, he could hear crews from all three species talking to each other, sharing perspectives and experiences. "What happens now?" "Now we build something new," Admiral Voss said, entering the command center with a smile on her weathered face. "A civilization that includes all of us. Human, Etherian, and whatever those former Void Seekers decide to become. Queen Lirelei helped Marcus sit up, and you'll be part of it all. The first ambassador, eternal, a living bridge between species. Marcus looked out through the transparent walls of the command center. In the distance, the aurora he had created painted the sky in colors that represented every emotion, every hope, every dream that consciousness was capable of feeling. Children would grow up under that light. Human children, Etherian children, and perhaps new kinds of children that had never existed before. They would know that different species could work together, that individual sacrifice could create collective strength, that the greatest light came not from burning alone, but from sharing fire with others. It was worth it, Marcus said quietly. All of it. It was worth it. And in the aurora above Zephyria, his words echoed as pure light, shining for everyone to see.